히트 시즌2.
In 4-player groups, there are 2 winners and 2 losers. We just had our first player to advance, and we will now have our first player to be eliminated in this upcoming losers match. This Protoss versus Protoss, where Classic tonight has been underperforming, but Super said in his interview earlier he is terrified and hopes he will not face Classic.
Well, I mean, he's going to have to eventually, so I don't know actually really what to think about this next matchup. I actually am still kind of surprised by Solar making it all the way through. Did not expect that, and even he said he was kind of surprised because he didn't necessarily practice that matchup versus Terran, but
yeah.
Hey, he's pretty good.
He played really well. He handled like a really unique situation very well. Also, like, when you're in a situation like that where it's a game we don't really see, it gets a bit crazy. Also, his build on New Gettysburg, I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? You're like kind of changing the way that this is working, but you didn't even prepare. I'm like, he's just like freestyling. He also said it's important to not only just grind games, but also to like think about what you're doing and like
outside
think of the strategy. Yeah,
even like outside your region and looking more towards European Zergs. And I don't know, I still have the past like DreamHack final in mind with the Nurchio just like making Terrans look super weak against that matchup. Well, maybe not necessarily the case. But now we're gonna get into our losers match, the PvP.
Look at these map priorities. They're like literally the same 3 maps and almost in the same order between these 2. So we are going to see Sejong, Frozen Temple, and Gettysburg. I guess it was probably just like a coin flip on which one was going to be game 2. But it's a mirror matchup. These are all 3 2-player maps, which eliminates the randomness of scouting and basically just kind of standardizes this mirror. And the coolest one that we might see out of these 3 is going to be on Gettysburg if Super can bring us there. Because I think Classic, despite the fact that he made a few control mistakes versus Beyond, is the favorite going into this best of 3.
Absolutely, and in a PvP, you know, we're not back in the Wings of Liberty 4-gate days, but still a very interesting matchup. That's what I love about Legacy of the Void, is it feels like even in mirror matchups, there are a lot of different ways that you can go. Unless it's CVZ and you just do the same thing every time. But for PvP, lots of different options. And we'll see which ones of those come out today. Super on your screen with a loss to Solar, trying to make it back.
Super doesn't have a lot of great practice partners on Freaks for Protoss versus Protoss. So that's something that's actually really scary. You mentioned in his interview he's worried about that. And he was hoping maybe that he was going to avoid Classic somehow. Maybe Classic gets out in first here and he loses that first match. He bounces back and just avoids Classic entirely the same way that basically Solar didn't think he was going to play Beyond. And he ended up doing it. So now he's in the situation he doesn't want to have because of the upset with Beyond. Classic played better games than Beyond overall. Like, he almost won 2 games where he was down like 80 supply because he was the better player. But he lost so much in the early game. He was playing the whole game with a hand tied behind his back. I feel like that's not going to happen in this matchup. There's very few things that suddenly happen where you lose a bunch of workers where, like, one specific thing is worker defense that he was struggling with today, but that's not really an issue in this matchup except with the Oracles. But if you have your Mothership Core nearby, it's not like you have to micro or split or react quickly. You just press F on a pylon and you move on with your life. So it's just having those things in position and building them in the right place. And versus Beyond, he had everything in place. He just didn't do it.
Yeah, so he didn't split his workers against Widow Mines. He lost to that big push in game number 2 versus, or game number 3 versus Beyond. And definitely some motivation here to get revenge, make it out of the group against Beyond in the game following this. But Super versus Classic is about to start. Game number 1 underway.
Just to stay alive, yeah. The zombies come out at night. They'll never catch me.
Top left. In King Sejong Station, the red Protoss player is Super.
He is Super, Wolf.
He is. Down here at the bottom right, in blue, it is his opponent, the Zealot Protoss. It is Classic. The new Chin Toss.
Super's like super, but not super enough to have won made it to the winners match. So he's like Demi Superman. We'll see if he's good enough to beat Classic, who should theoretically have maybe a little bit of an upper leg, more experience, and just more solid overall. But in PvP, of course, anything can happen. It is a mirror match, and we're still just figuring out which builds both players are going to go for. We're not seeing any early Nexuses, Nexi, but a little bit of an earlier scout timing there for Classic.
Yeah, I want to say Super is the guy who keeps doing these Nexus first builds and crazy timings versus players in this matchup. He got countered by Hero a few times by that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they're in the same group, and that happened in Pro League as well. So like something that's happened with those two players, specifically Super and Hero. But in this case, on this two-player map, he's just going to play it safe with a double gate.
Yep, absolutely identical builds.
When you see the gates finish, or rather the core finish, that's when you really get a sense of what these two players are thinking.
Oh,
Classic is like, I get the feeling that today he's just not on the ball. Like he's like, what if I mess up again? Let's just proxy instead. And I'm just going to go for these adepts, which can be used to control vision, but are not going to be as powerful at zone control. Whereas Super's going to get a greedier Nexus, but will build his mothership core energy faster. So like, those are the trade-offs. There's going to be a fast Stargate, but if he can use those adepts for vision control, then there's no way that Super will know about this. But he needs to do big damage because, and I keep saying the term big damage, but it's like you need to do critical damage with builds like this because you've committed so many resources to them. If you do not, your opponent will have a faster base than you, and it will not have spent the 250 plus gas on those units that did no damage.
Yep, and here comes the scouting probe in for Super.
Now this gate is weird, Rapid. Like, is he just going to make one Oracle and do like a Stalker Oracle push, or a Void Ray even? It's going to be like a Void Relin? I'm really curious.
I mean, it should be Void Rays coming up after this. I don't know about that positioning. It's still a little bit weird to see exactly what he's going to do with that. Now he's going to go double Oracle, and the Oracle should be making its way up there.
So what Super is probably going to want to do is get that Void Ray that you're mentioning. It's going to make it easier to defend if this is just going to be Stalker Oracle. There are no pylons on the low ground, which is really critical here. That's going to be what he needs. The Gateway is going to allow him to reinforce with fast warp-ins. And there's the Void Ray I'm talking about. Blind, in fact. He's starting to realize like something weird is going on. He wants to make this safe. And here comes that first Oracle. When he sees this, if he cancels the Void Ray, it'll be so funny. Oh man, immediate overcharge.
Yeah, nice timing on that. Oracle will find a couple of kills, but will it find enough? Oh my gosh, he's got to get away from the Stalkers, but he does find a third probe.
This is really wonky, man. He's going to have a second Oracle for that extra damage. This can give you vision, but it can't zone. Ooh, Gateway barely gets up.
Oh, nice block there on the ramp to prevent the Adepts from getting in. Second Oracle on the way.
I don't know what to call this building sub 4-gate Oracle.
Is that it just sounds weird, but here comes out this Void Ray. Cannot do anything against this push. Nice save there on that low health Stalker, but Classic in a very strange spot.
He just doesn't have all of his units together.
You can't protect this. There's a Void Ray out. Now, oh my god, double Oracles on the mineral line. This is actually going to devastate the probe count. So many workers going down 13 dead. And while yes, this Warp Prism, or not Warp Prism, the Void Ray is actually going to get a lot of kills, was this worth it?
Well, the funny thing is now Classic has enough of a worker lead that he can just keep warping in and win the game. Even though he lost the battle, like he will win the war.
Phoenix coming out just for the lift there. Classic, will he be able to hold on to this position?
I think so.
Yeah,
I
just
think
continual
he just wins
warp-ins.
here.
That's just too many workers to lose.
This was pretty weird. Like GG.
Yeah, GG.
I guess I was thinking the Oracles were just going to attack units and then threaten the back, but I didn't know how well that would actually work out in practice. If he had overcharged there, though, I mean, he did, but it was like not immediate. I wonder if he overcharged a little bit earlier, that doesn't work out, but it seems like a really hard build to stop because he knew about it, but he still just couldn't quite keep track of both his army and the middle line. If you push out far enough to actually attack that Stargate, then you're so far away from your main you can't defend. Like, he got spread really thin there. That was a really cool build by Classic. I wasn't sold on it right away. But the more I watch it, I'm like, yeah, no, this actually works out.
Yeah, and like you said, if Super had just overcharged maybe a little faster the second time, he would have been great. And he was actually doing a great job until all of his stuff died. And that's usually when you lose the game. After that, turns out losing all your workers means you're not in a great spot. So kind of a weird build to see that pressure, but it definitely worked out in the end.
Yeah, it definitely did. So we're going into Frozen Temple next, if I remember correctly. I believe, I can't remember the order, I just remember the 3 maps. It's going to be Frozen or Gettys. We'll find out in a second, but like, that's one way to just take a